Hello again, this is Daniel, back with another Book of the Week review. This week we're reviewing the title Teach Yourself to Live by C.G.L, which is a self-help book that was written back in 1955 and attempts to give us some tips and ideas to better live our life. This book is written in a really direct style. It talks specifically to the individual, and for its time it was pretty innovative. Most books at that time, self-help type books and instructional type books, tended to be religious or very sort of socialized type wisdom. And this book talks specifically to you as an individual in terms of the best way you can get the most out of life, which is pretty unique and interesting. So I wanted to share a couple of ideas from the book to help you out. The book starts off talking about the idea of facing the facts in life, telling us that we're all born into a certain circumstance in life. We're stuck in the body that we're in, we're stuck with the mind that we have, and we have certain gifts and we have certain disadvantages depending on our own self. So we have to really make the best of our gifts, and we have to accept our disadvantages or our drawbacks and try and work on them the best we can. Now, I really like this idea because it kind of cuts through the crap in terms of wishing that we had a better life or that we could be someone else, or if only things were a different way. And it makes us face the fact that things are the way they are. And from there we can actually start to empower ourselves to move forward and to change ourselves. The next idea is something he calls the power of the will. Now this is all about the idea that we choose our lives based on our willpower. And the will is basically kind of like an emotional muscle, if you like. If you work out your body, your muscles get stronger. Well, it's the same. If you choose to exercise your willpower as a person, it gets stronger. And the more that you channel your will into things, the more you actually can achieve and create things that you want in your life. And conversely, if you actually choose to give in to your weaknesses or instant gratification all the time, your willpower actually gets weaker, like a muscle that's not used. So the power of the will is very important. And it's something we hear a lot about in self-help, being self-disciplined and being focused and that type of thing. And this book, being a very early self-help book, kind of focuses on it as willpower. And I think it's very relevant today, particularly when we have so many distractions and things that can take us off course. The power of the will is still very relevant. It can help you to actually guide through the rough seas to where you want to go in life. The next topic he talks about is the idea of possessions. Now, human beings tend to have like an innate drive, if you like, to actually possess things and gather, a collection of things around them. And you see this in people everywhere. We all want nice things. We want to live a nice life, have a nice home, nice car, nice clothes, etc. And this is an innate drive. It's something that's in every person. We can't seem to escape it. However, it gets to a point where enough is enough, and you find that the possessions that you have, if you continue to want more and more and more in your life, actually end up owning you. And so it's a great idea to think about are the things that I have in my life all giving me the experience that I need? Or do I have too much? Can I actually cull down a little bit and have a more simple life? Another idea that he talks about in great detail in this book is the idea of making a living versus having a life. Now, we all obviously need to earn money, and we usually have a job or a career of some sort to do that. But what he talks about in the book is the idea that we're going to spend a lot of our time and our energy, our waking hours, at work. And so if we tend to just think about the end result, which is the money or the reward, with neglecting the actual journey, the work that we do, looking at it just as a means to an end, we'll tend to have a miserable life. So he suggests actually finding something where you can use your unique gifts, you can actually channel your energy and rise to a challenge to actually get the most out of your working hours as well, not just go for the end result of the money or the reward. This is a very powerful idea, and I think it's really the core of everyone who has a great life really has something in their work that they really, really enjoy. So it's something I'd really encourage you to have a think about is my work actually something that empowers me and energizes me, or am I just in it for the money? Another great idea that comes up in the book is something he calls the environment of period. What he's talking about is that each of us live in a certain time period. So if you look back at the 1950s when this book was written, there was a certain way of living and a certain kind of mentality that permeated society. And if you go to the 60s or the 70s or the 80s, it starts to change over time. People's attitudes and ways of living change. Now, what's interesting is that each person as an individual tends to reach a peak in their life, a certain time when they feel that that was the optimum they were at. And for most of us it tends to be in our sort of early 20s, something like that, where we kind of hit the peak of our youth. And after that, what you find is that most of us tend to glamorize our life based on that era. So we tend to look back to that time and think, boy, life was so much better then, I really enjoyed myself, I wish life was as simple as it was then. What he talks about is that we must live in the environment of period that we're in right now. We must be up to date. We must be aware that what we have right now is just as good as what we had back in those halcyon days when we thought everything was great. And I think this is a great idea because a lot of people who I talk to really get stuck in nostalgic talk. Remember when we did this, or that was a great time, things were simpler when, that kind of crap. And it's a trap. It's something that actually sets you up to be miserable in the current moment. So what the book recommends is actually staying up to date, realizing that the time you're living in now is actually just as good, if not better, than the time that you're glamorizing from the past. And that's what the environment of period is all about. Realize that the time that you're living in now is an environment, and actually be present to that environment and enjoy it for what it is. The final idea I wanted to share from this book is something he calls getting the best out of life. Now this is a pretty interesting one because a lot of people stumble in this area when they're going out to achieve their goals. Basically what he's saying is that we all deserve to live a great life, and we have to give ourselves permission to actually go out and get the best for ourselves. Nobody's going to give us the best just by default. We're probably going to get a mediocre life if we just accept what other people give us. Now we're all born into a circumstance, a certain way of living, and we have influences around us when we're young, and most people tend to fall into the trap of just believing whatever level the people around them live at is what they should live at too. And what he suggests in this book is that you can choose for yourself what's best. You don't need to just listen to other people or accept what's all around you. You can actually choose for yourself what's right, and you can choose to get the best in everything that you do. Now this of course means that you have to lift your own game and expect the best from yourself in terms of your work, in terms of your personal presentation, keeping your environment nice. All those things are really important to get the best out of life. And the more that you do this, you'll find the more inspired you feel about the everyday. So it's a really powerful concept in terms of giving yourself permission to have the best in life and believing that you deserve it. This little book is really unique. It's something that really struck me in a lot of different parts. There's some great ideas, some really clever distinctions about ways to think about people and about life, some unique viewpoints that I'd never come across before. It reminds me a lot of the work of Napoleon Hill in terms of its old school approach to success. It's very much about rising up as an individual and making the most of yourself, which is very inspiring. I like that idea a lot. The book itself is quite short. It's only a couple of 100 pages, but it's packed with wisdom, and it's well worth the read. If you like old type books, if you like sort of well-written prose, you'll probably find this book will be right up your alley. It's worth checking out. Teach Yourself to Live by C.G.L. Cann. Check it out when you have some time.